Hello, everybody, and welcome into Lightning Round.
No, it's Greg Zerline.
No. Oh.
I don't even know these people.
You have my solemn vow we are done at wide receiver.
Pemba said fold.
Till the next round.
This is sitting on top of my Scott Fishbowl trophy.
I have a cup for Cooper Cup, I guess.
Yeah.
Welcome into Lightning Round, of course, powered by Fantasy Alarm. I am Kevin Tompkins, of course, with Andrew Cooper, with Britt Flynn, and of course, Mr. Matthew Berry himself, a man that needs no introduction, but you know what? We're going to give him one anyway. A man who's 101 of Logan Thomas in 2020 took the fantasy world by storm at Pete Overzet's randomizer draft stream. New York Times bestselling author, ESPN senior fantasy analyst, burgeoning TikTok sensation. Matthew, it is great to have you, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm a bit older. I feel like I've accomplished a lot in my career. I feel like it's been a storied career, if you will. I'm not sure the fact that I had to draft Logan Thomas 101 in Pete Overzet's randomizer BS best ball, extravaganza 2 years ago is what I would lead with when talking about my career. Like, I would hope that, when whoever's writing my obituary, I hope that that's not what gets led with. I mean, I did say I thought Logan Thomas would be a thing 2 years ago, and Logan Thomas did turn out to be a thing 2 years ago. But so it was not as bad a 101 pick as others in randomizer drafts have been. But it's not necessarily what I would have led with, Kevin. So I appreciate that. The other thing I like is that I like in your intro, you're like, of course, Andrew Cooper. Because really you think all the massive amount of fans for this show are like, well, obviously Coop's here.
Obviously, right?
Well,
yeah, all my fans are here.
That the audience is like, well, obviously, Kevin's not going anywhere without Coop. Like, I don't know that you guys are exactly, Tango and Cash here, or Starsky and Hutch, or
all my
everyone is like Tompkins and Coop, or like the next, whatever, Mahomes and Kelsey. I don't know that everyone, I don't know that everyone puts it together the way, well, peanut butter, you got to have jelly. Like, I'm just not sure you guys are there yet.
Yeah,
I
not
think
quite.
The of course was a bit much. That's all I'm just going to say.
All my fans here today are they're here to find out who Matthew Berry is. So you can probably expect to get a bunch more followers from this one.
Yeah,
Matthew.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm the guy that took Logan Thomas 101, according to Kevin Thompson. So.
But how many people are going to be leading with that? That's the thing.
No one. Most,
I'm trying to be the 101.
Podcast I do says something. They'll mention they'll mention New York Times bestselling author. They could mention Emmy Award winner. They could mention a bunch of ESPN stuff. Of course, they could mention there's been various awards over the years. Sometimes people mention Avengers, but no one really mentions the randomizer draft. So I'm with you. Sometimes people mention the newsletter, Kevin. I mean, you contribute to the Fantasy Life newsletter. You could have mentioned that, but that's all right. Good. It's fine. That's right. Thomas 101.
Perfect.
I love it. Well, today, we're going to be talking about guys that we cannot leave our drafts without a quote, my guys, unquote. So, Matthew, I know we talked about, some of these players pre-show and that you had a guy that you're not going to be leaving your drafts without. I know it's early in the process, certainly, but, who is that guy for you? At least the guy early on in the process. Maybe he's a guy that's going to be on your love list,
right.
Coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean, so it's June 15th. We're taping this June 15th, just in case, June 15th, 2022.
Of course, June 15th.
Right, because sometimes, again, like whatever, I picked a tight end 101 in a randomizer draft where I was forced to 2 years ago, and it comes up. So it's important to, I think, date things. But so I don't have a draft strategy where I'm like, I have to get this guy. I'm sort of a best player available. I sort of just kind of go by my ranks when I draft. Having said all that, I know that I am certainly higher. I haven't done a massive study of ADP around the web, so I can merely talk about ESPN, at least as of here in the middle of June. But I know that I'm significantly higher than both the consensus and the ADP of Rashad Bateman on ESPN. I have him as a top 24 wide receiver. I think he's going outside the top 30 on ESPN. Look, I think it's very simple. We always talk about fantasy success. What does it come from? At least from my opinion, it comes from two things. It comes from talent and opportunity. All right. Does he have talent? I believe so. I loved his college tape. I thought he showed some flashes down the stretch last year. Problem for for Rashad Bateman and the Ravens is that last year, still run heavy team. Taylor Huntley played some. They had Lamar Jackson. The offense was in flux throughout the year. No Dobbins, no Gus Edwards. They had some injuries as well. Obviously, Lamar Jackson missed some time as well. And so with Marquis Brown and Mark Andrews, Bateman, of course, missed training camp. He missed the first, I believe, 6 weeks of the season or so as well. So, and that's always an important time for a rookie. So it was kind of a long ramp to get him there. But then I thought there were some flashes. Here's what's new. He's coming into the system. Marquis Brown now in Arizona, obviously, 146 targets, guys. Marquis Brown had 146 targets last year. And so there's no one else that I believe that the Ravens went out and got either in free agency or the draft that is going to get anywhere close to taking a big portion of those 146 targets. My expectation is that somewhere between 120 and 140 targets are coming Rashad Bateman's way this year. I know the Ravens are still going to be run first, but you talk about narrow target tree. Like, it's Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman. Like, that's going to be the passing offense for the Ravens. And we expect the Ravens to be a pretty good offense. Yes, they will be run heavy, but there's still a pretty good offense that'll be in scoring position often. Marquis Brown was very good last year as a fantasy wide receiver. Mark Andrews finished as tight end 1. So we know fantasy production can come from that offense in the passing game. And so for me, again, does he have talent? I believe so, based on his college tape and sort of the flashes we saw last year. Does he have opportunity? He has a massive opportunity in what we expect to be Lamar Jackson's contract year. He has not signed an extension. He's a free agent after this year. Do I think Lamar Jackson balls out this year? I do. And I think Rashad Bateman is one of the guys that helps him get there.
I love that you picked Rashad Bateman. I've actually written an article on why I'm high on that guy too. And one of the big things that you brought up is the target consolidation. And the reason that seems to happen in this offense is they use such a high number of fullbacks, second tight ends. Like Patrick Ricard is playing like 50% of the snaps, which is taking other wide receivers out of the game. So if you can be that one dude who's in there the whole time collecting that giant consolidation of targets, they're not getting siphoned off by Patrick Ricard is not going to garner 70 targets, right? So when it's super consolidated like that, you get these instances like you just mentioned where, 150 targets to Mark Andrews, 150 to Marquis Brown. And I think that Rashad Bateman might actually be better than Marquis Brown. So this is a pick that, is pretty easy to get at his current ADP. On Underdog, we're seeing him go outside the top 24. I think he's going closer to 30 than he is 24. So I'm scooping up a lot of Bateman so far. I think we just took him in the puppy drafts we did last week, right? Or one of the ones we did.
I think so. Yeah. We've done a ton. But I also really like how the Ravens have shored up their offensive line and how they've kind of given Lamar Jackson some time to throw in the pocket where he's not forced to scramble. The more time he has in the pocket, he's going to be able to throw more. I think that they really can maintain more of that 11th in passing or in rushing, as opposed to the past 2 seasons where they've been either first or third back to back. So I think shoring up that offensive line is a big overlooked thing that they've done to help their pass catchers. And I love Bateman. I love that pick.
Yeah, I think there's, you all just pretty much hit every note on Bateman. I mean, there's opportunity that he's stepping into with Marquis Brown gone. Pretty consolidated as far as, targets in this offense where you're looking at Bateman, you're looking at Andrews and a lot of wild cards around them, but there's a clear gulf between, Bateman and they don't really have I mean, I guess if you want to count the corpse of Mike Davis as a pass catching option out of those running backs, because Dobbins really hasn't shown it. Can he improve? Sure. But, he's not really going to put that much of a dent in, the passing game from the running back position. So, yeah, it's Bateman and Andrews. I mean, you can kind of flip flop as far as who's going to be the top target there, but Bateman's absolutely going to be in that equation. So, for him to be going in that kind of 25 to 30 ADP among wide receivers, I think that's a pretty pretty good value there when you're looking at guys that have upside. And their off-season work, they went out and, like I said, got Mike Davis, drafted Tyler Beatty. They got 2 tight ends in the draft late, but it pretty much showed you they traded Marquis Brown. They want to run the ball, but when they do, there's still going to be enough volume there, obviously, for Bateman and Andrews to be those 2 top, those focal points. So definitely like Bateman as far as a clear value there. Coop.
I appreciate the support. All right, is my work done? I think my work is done.
Yeah, maybe see if you could hang around just for a couple of hours. See if we can all be in agreement, or if maybe you don't like these guys, that you can weigh in on it too.
Yes, roast us all, please.
Yeah. So you want me to go, Kev?
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, there's a very specific tight end that I'm taking a lot of. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm reaching for him, because you don't really have to. But this tight end fits perfectly into my strategy, which is if I don't get any of the top guys, if I can get Pitts at value or Mark Andrews at value, I'm doing that. But with this player, I can take him, and then I can take some of the upside sleeper tight ends later and kind of use it as a bridge to potential upside, right? And I'm talking about Zach Ertz here. So for me, what I do is if I don't get a top guy, I wait and I take Ertz, not only because he's fairly consistent target-wise. He was, top 2 in red zone targets, top 3 in end zone targets, but with DeAndre Hopkins out for the first 6 weeks, he's going to have a little bit of a boost there. So what I can do is take him and comfortably start him, and then use one bench spot to stash somebody like Evan Ingram. See if maybe he can be a top target on his new team, right? Or stash like David Njoku. See if maybe he can be the second guy after Amari Cooper. I mean, this is what I'm trying to do. If I don't get the top, I'm not going to reach for anybody. I'm going to take a guy like this that I think is safe. Worst case scenario, I can probably start him all year, but I can use him as a bridge to try and find breakout guys, because people forget that, with Mark Andrews and Darren Waller, they weren't always these can't miss guys. The people that got them, you either drafted them and had them on your bench, or you went and got them off waivers because you could not trust them week 1. So I always, when I'm trying to do these breakout tight ends or find guys late, you need to have some sort of bridge to get there. And I think Zach Ertz is cheap enough to do that and allow you to take stabs on the, high risk, high reward guys later.
Yeah, so interesting. So I both like and hate the pick, and I'll tell you why. So in terms of liking the pick, I like Zach Ertz. I'm with you. Showed, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but certainly showed production once he went to Arizona. He was sort of freed from Philadelphia and became the guy. We've seen that offense. I mean, even Max Williams, had a pulse there for a little bit. We've seen the starting tight end of Cliff Kingsbury's Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray under center have success, and certainly Zach Ertz over the second half of last year. Once he got there, a lot of production. I think it was exciting to see actually how much production Ertz had, given that he'd just shown up a couple of weeks ago. And so now with a full offseason to absorb it, to get more familiar with Kyler Murray, certainly that helps. And I think what's interesting here is it's not just about the fact that DeAndre Hopkins will miss the first 6 games, but also just think who's left. Right? We expect their starting 3 wide receivers. It's going to be Marquis Brown. It's going to be A.J. Green, who's a returning, and second-year guy Rondell Moore. Now, I like all 3 of those guys, but none of them, with the exception of maybe A.J. Green, obviously, and he's getting up there in years, you don't feel like any of them is a massive red zone target the way that Zach Ertz is. And Hopkins is obviously a big red zone target, but I think I would think that there's more touchdown upside in Zach Ertz than perhaps maybe people might think just at sort of first glance. So I like that. I think there's a nice floor there with a little bit of upside with Zach Ertz. We expect it to be a good offense. We expect him to be scoring position early and often. So I like the pick from that standpoint, Coop. But here's why I hate it. This is the premise of the show is my guys, right? These are the guys I'm not leaving my draft without. And so for you to say, I'm not leaving my draft without tight end 9, even you are I think there's a floor there, and he's a good bridge guy to get me to, potentially some of the sleeper tight ends, the guys you mentioned or whatever, or Gerald Everett, in now with the Chargers, right? Or a Cole Kmet or whatever. Some of those like late, you know, and you're just like, that's your guy, a bridge guy. Like, you know, like I cannot leave the draft without a bridge guy. Like it just feels a little Coop, if I may. I just always want to be drafting for upside. And I think Ertz is more of, I like the strategy. I don't disagree with you that. And I've always said that's about tight ends. And I think it's true this year as well. Like I either want to be one of the first guys in my league to get a tight end or one of the last. Right. And so, and when I say one of the last, I mean like of the starters. Right. And so Ertz is somewhere in that 8 to 12 range at tight end this year. So depending on your league size, assuming it's not tight end premium, assuming you're only playing one tight end, like Ertz is a perfectly fine target for if I'm not in on right Pitts, Kelsey, Andrews, like sort of the elite of the elite. So I don't mind him from any of that standpoint. I guess for me, I want upside. I want a league winner. And I don't know that Zach Ertz, I think he's probably more of a floor play than an upside play at tight end. I'd actually rather have Dallas Goedert as an upside guy than Ertz, right? Even though, I mean, like I like Ertz. I think he's a good player. It's a good situation. He's a floor guy, but that would be my take with the pick.
Yeah. Well, the truth be told, my guy in this instance is really Evan Ingram. It's just I can only do so many shows where I tell people why I love Evan Ingram and why I think he's going to be above and beyond what he is. So if I was being true to it, Evan Ingram is really my plant flag guy. But, you know, I can't, like I said, how many times have I talked about Evan Ingram on the show, guys? I got to mix it up every once in a while. So for me, Ertz it's a pairing to me, the Ertz Ingram pairing. So I got to go with Ertz as the guy that I actually have to take near his ADP. Ingram, he just falls in your lap.
Yeah, I don't mind Ingram at all. I mean, Peterson's track record as a play caller and head coach has always used the tight end. Speaking of Ertz, speaking of Dallas Goedert, right? And so those guys, and so Evan Ingram, new situation here. We expect a lot of improvement from Trevor Lawrence. You know, so anyway.
Fair criticism of the of the picking the wishy-washy guy. Yeah.
If you can't so anyway.
For sure. What do you guys think about Ertz, Britt?
I think that if you're banking on James Conner's touchdown regression, like negative touchdown regression, that gives more upside to Ertz. But I'm not a big one to bank on touchdown regression. Now, that said, I do really love Ertz. But if I get him, I get him. And if I don't, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Ertz is fine where he's going. I'm always prioritizing. I think my exposures on Underdog right now, I think I'm like elite tight end is like 60% right now. So I'm not usually getting guys like Zach Ertz that late because I'm usually taking the top guy and then kind of sandwiching that with a guy that's late, like an Everett, like an Ingram, like Brett, even Brevin Jordan that late. But for what he is, if you miss out on those guys, like Zach Ertz is like that perfect guy. I mean, yeah, he stepped right in. With pretty much a 24% target share the second that he got, that Cardinal uniform on. He was basically just a plug and play tight end 4.5 point PPR. So, I mean, for what he is, he's pretty good. I mean, he's as floor play as tight end gets. Yeah, Britt, what about you? Who's your guy you can't leave the draft without? And no floor plays here.
Well, Matthew, I know that you are a proponent of waiting on quarterbacks. I've heard this from you for years and years and years. So I'm thinking of a quarterback that you can get in later rounds that has as much upside as one of these top guys. And that guy for me is Jalen Hurts. So if you look in 2021, he had 11 quarterback 1 weeks, which was as many as Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, and Tom Brady, with playing 2 fewer games than those guys did. He has elite rushing upside. He scored 10 rushing touchdowns. And while that is probably going to regress a little bit, they went out and got A.J. Brown. So now he has another passing weapon, which I think evens this out. The Eagles have the second easiest strength of schedule going into this season. And Hurts has an ADP of around 63.7 on Underdog, going as quarterback 6 or 7. So I think you can get one of those top guys in a very later round that's going to provide just as much upside. And then you can kind of stack with all of these other elite position players. So how do you feel about Jalen Hurts?
I mean, I love Jalen Hurts. He was on the love list last year. I did a bold predictions piece in the very beginning of the year, and I said Jalen Hurts. My bold prediction is Jalen Hurts finishes at the number one quarterback in fantasy. This was last year when he was going much later, and obviously he didn't finish as the number one quarterback in fantasy, but he certainly was a massive profit for anyone that drafted him late. There were people that thought he's going to lose his job. He's not accurate, blah, blah, blah. I did a bunch of comparisons about the final four games, the only four games that Jalen Hurts started versus the final four games of Lamar Jackson's rookie year, and they compared very favorably. And of course, Lamar Jackson, his second year, ended up winning the MVP, fantasy and real life. So absolutely love the call, Britt. I think finishing as the number one quarterback in fantasy is still within the realm of possibility for Jalen Hurts. They have a very easy schedule at the start of the year, specifically, which I really like, because some of the questions, real life wise, is can Jalen Hurts be a franchise quarterback? And Philly's a tough town. And so I think the Eagles will get up. They'll be 2-2. They'll be 3-1 after the first four games. Who knows, maybe even 4-0. But my expectation here is that that he's going to get a little bit of breathing room for people. Can Jalen Hurts be the guy talk in terms of job security? And so, right, another year in the system, another year with Nick Sirianni, adding A.J. Brown, who, by the way, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are very close friends in real life. Like, they've been at each other's, birthday parties, and they share a lot of stuff together on social media. So I think there'll be less of a chemistry issue there than what would normally happen with one guy, going to a brand new team. Obviously, the rushing upside is massive. So I'm with you. I have him ranked as a top 5 fantasy quarterback. You're saying he's going at 6 or 7. There's certainly value there. Absolutely love Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. I just think about the year that Cam Newton if you drafted Cam Newton in 2015 or whatever it was, you just won your league, right? And he didn't really do anything crazy passing wise. I mean, 35 touchdowns is good passing, but he had the 10 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts last year had 10 rushing touchdowns, and people forget that he hurt his ankle, right? Like for the last 6 or so games, even when he did play, he wasn't really running the way he was earlier in the year. They were actually handing it to the running backs in the red zone, which they weren't doing before. So the ceiling for this guy is obviously insane, right? And you look at the ADPs for A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, who Matthew mentioned earlier. Like, if those guys are even going to be close to their ADP, bringing back value with those ADPs, and he runs even close to how he did last year, I don't see how he doesn't have an amazing floor. It's like everyone's, even if they don't think they're doing it, they're building in that projection just by having those guys ranked where they have them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear gulf in like perception between the people that think Jalen Hurts is a real life good quarterback versus terrible, and there's also a great gulf between the people that think Jalen Hurts he's going to be losing his job. He's not a great he was a top 12 quarterback 11 out of the 15 weeks he started. Like, I just do not understand why you're getting him at a clear value here at quarterback 7, quarterback 8, and then you add A.J. Brown to the equation with Devonta Smith, with Dallas Goedert. Like, yeah, absolutely, quarterback 1 is in the range of outcomes for Jalen Hurts, and we could talk about the rushing ad nauseum. If he even improves just a little bit as a quarterback, I mean, he had 10 rushing touchdowns. He had 16 passing touchdowns. Who's to say if that dude gets up to like maybe 23, 24, 25, and still keeps a little bit more of that, rushing upside that he had. He had almost 800 yards last season. I mean, you're looking at a top 3, top 4 quarterback at least. So yeah, Jalen Hurts is one of my favorite quarterbacks to be able to get once, get priced out of the Lamar Jacksons, the Kyler Murrays, Joe Burrows, Allen's, Mahomes, Herbert's, those guys. And I will round this off here with my guy. And it's not just because I have his jersey behind me. It is T. Higgins. He has been one of my guys. He's been my guy since last season. Weeks 11 through 18, he exceeded Jamar Chase's production. He scored more fantasy points per game, more targets, more receptions, 94 receiving yards to Chase's 77, a higher target share than Jamar Chase. This all thanks to Sam Wallace, of course, of the Fantasy Life newsletter, all those stats there. But not only that, the Bengals added to their offensive line. They're going to be able to keep Joe Burrow upright a lot more, adding Ted Karras, adding La'el Collins, adding Alex Kappa. In the regular season and postseason, last season. Burrow took 70 sacks. The next highest was 48 by Ryan Tannehill. So if you could expect with those additions in the offensive line, those sack numbers to come down, Burrow's going to have some more volume. T. Higgins has I think he has wide receiver 1 upside, and you don't have to spend a top 6 pick on Jamar Chase. You can get access to this ascending offense in Cincinnati via T. Higgins, who you can take at the end of the second round, sometimes even at the beginning of the third. I mean, T. Higgins was just as, maybe he's not quite the prospect that Jamar Chase is, but as far as a 1A, 1B, I mean, I'm always going to take the cheaper of the options, and T. Higgins is right to me in lockstep with Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I like Higgins quite a bit as well. We actually talked about him on the Fantasy Focus podcast this week, where look, I mean, the fact of the matter is that if you include the playoff games as well, in all the games in which Jamar Chase and T. Higgins played together, I think Chase had 4 more targets. I mean, basically their target share was almost identical. Now, Jamar Chase, and I think that there's a chance that Jamar Chase draws even more defensive attention after the rookie year he had. Obviously, people are like, we don't know. A couple of bad drops in the preseason. He hasn't played in college before. I think defensive coordinators were caught a little bit unaware by exactly what they had in Jamar Chase. We saw that with some of these crazy plays. Now, weirdly, I think Jamar Chase is a little bit more boom bust. Look, I have Jamar Chase at 3, right? So obviously, I'm expecting great things out of Chase this year. But over the course of a season, I think Chase will have some monster games and some lower games, and I think Higgins week to week is going to be more of a floor play. Insanely talented player that's only improved every single year. We like this offense. We like Joe Burrow. Clearly has a connection with him. It's an exciting offense as well. I think the teams are not going to be able to focus on Higgins the way that I think they probably will in this. I think they're going to game plan more for stopping Jamar Chase. So, yeah, an easy top 12 wide receiver for me. Could easily finish as the number 1 wide receiver on the Bengals. Again, I do have Chase over Higgins, but still, it's not outside the range of possibilities. A lot of upside there with T. Higgins level.
Yeah, I'm there with you because it's the super highly consolidated target shares that does it for me, because we've seen teams do this before, going back to Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, even Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. If there's 2 guys like that and they're super highly consolidated, they both can get 25% target shares, and there's no reason they both can't be wide receiver 1s. And like Matthew alluded to there, it becomes a huge matchup nightmare when you have this one big split end in T. Higgins and this one speed guy in Jamar Chase, and you're one of those teams that just has one good corner. You know what I mean? What do you do with that? Do you teams are going to have to either bracket Higgins or just kind of lock up Chase. So it's a tough situation. So I'm all for it.
I'm actually probably the only person who isn't super excited on T. Higgins, but it's only because of ADP and because it's been creeping up a little bit throughout this offseason and draft process. And I also think that with that bulked up offensive line, that Joe Mixon is going to have a lot bigger role. The Bengals had a fairly low passing volume offense last season. And if they do incorporate Mixon more, then that kind of edges Higgins out. But I mean, I'm not saying he's going to have a bad year. I just think he might be a little bit of a trap at his ADP.
Yeah, completely get that. So yeah, those were our my guys. Again, Matthew, thank you so much for coming on with us. It's well, I'll work on the, of course, I'll work on the intro going forward. I appreciate all of your I don't even know what you call it, but I just appreciate you and
being a legend, being a fantasy football legend, man. It's synonymous with fantasy football is Matthew Berry. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate
it.
You guys are
Varsity Pizza's on me next time.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Yeah, a little Syracuse reference there. Yeah, I apologize that wish we had longer, but it's just a tough day. But anyway, wish you guys luck. Appreciate it. Like all the calls there. Britt, it'll be interesting to see on Higgins. I will say I'm slightly lower than, I think I'm at 11. I think on ESPN he's going at 9 or 10. So I'm slightly lower than consensus on ESPN. So it's interesting. But I do think, it's a good player. But we'll see how it all plays out. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Much luck and good luck with the show going forward.